Well, hello there. How is everyone? I hope you're well on this amazing, beautiful, wonderful Thursday. Thursday. You're looking absolutely amazing, by the way. And we're going to get straight into the meat and potatoes as we are heading over to Moscow, Idaho, Latah County. First of all, 16th supplemental request for discovery. This is the doc. So in the District Court of the 2nd Judicial District of the State of Idaho, in and for the County of Latah, please take notice that the undersigned, pursuant to Rule 16 of the Idaho Criminal Rules, the 4th, 5th, 6th, 8th, 14th Amendments to the Constitution of the United States and Article 1, 1, 2, 3, 13, 17 of the Constitution of the State of Idaho, requests discovery and inspection of all materials discoverable by defendant per ICR 16B 1 through 8 and the aforementioned constitutional provisions, including but not limited to the following information, evidence, and materials outlined in Exhibit O. So there we have it, guys. We have a 16th supplemental request for discovery. And the funny thing is, there's literally 1 month, approximately 1 month now. I think it might be less than that. The deadline for discovery. So everything that the prosecution is intending to bring forward as evidence against Brian Christopher Kohberger in the trial next year, which starts on June 2nd, 2025, everything should be handed over in the next, let's say, 4 weeks, give or take 4 weeks. And they are still having to request. Look, it's not uncommon for them to have to keep requesting things. It would be unfair to say that there is absolutely no scenario where we've seen this happen previously. But what we can say is that in a case where many of the people out who are interested in watching this case, they seem to have Brian Kohberger pegged already. He's done and dusted, sold down the river, ready for the execution. We're still seeing the defense team requesting discovery because there are elements missing. We have seen the likes of Cy Ray come forward, for instance, and say that one of the most critical pieces of information, which is the cell phone data and the information that would seemingly suggest Brian Kohberger's route from his apartment to where this atrocity was committed, that is not yet been concluded. And in fact, the missing proportions of that is indicative of the potential that there is exculpatory evidence in there somewhere. So, bearing that in mind, we have the Goncalves family who have come forward yet again and done yet another interview with Vinnie Politan. They've had a discussion. They've spoken about their thoughts and feelings as we approach kind of the change of venue situation, the trial next year. What I did find interesting in this interview, I don't know whether I'm not going to play the interview. I've got no interest in listening to or forcing you to even listen to it. I'm just going to break it down for you. They've already done, as a family, they've done their impact statements. They've done it. They've got this done. You had Shannon Gray in this interview with them as well, who was kind of, it's almost like he's suggesting he's walking his hand through, holding their hands through it and explaining why things are going the way that they're going and why there's this delay and why there's that delay. No doubt he'll be, pacifying them as they're frustrated because they feel that the defense perhaps isn't doing what they should be doing. I don't understand what they think that the defense should be doing. It does seem to me that they have, as a family, concluded that Brian Kohberger is the guy who did the crime. I find this very, very interesting, bearing in mind that they shouldn't be privy to any information that goes beyond what we as the general public know. Not unless someone is leaking information to them, which has always been something that we have questioned and queried around this case. Do the Goncalves family know more than what they are letting on? Or do they want their Goncalves Army to believe? Are they trying to give make it look like they know more in order to keep hold of and concrete that support that they do have. I believe that if you were to do a survey on the Goncalves Army, I believe that the vast majority of them would likely believe that the Goncalves family knows more about this case than what the general public do. That in itself is problematic, but it is what it is. We've seen it. We've been here since the beginning. We've watched the court hearings. We've seen the court documents, and all we rarely know as the public is that Brian Kohberger is the accused. He is going to be facing trial next year. This family, who have become almost like the mouthpiece for the tragedy, and look, I'll say I feel 100% for them for the loss of their child. It's horrendous, and nobody should ever have to go through that. But I find it very frustrating that they have become the mouthpiece for this crime when there are many other victims. We've got, not only the people who lost their lives inside that house, but the ripple effect and the many others who have been affected by that. Not to mention, or not to forget, Brian Kohberger's family. Even if Brian Kohberger is guilty of this crime, the decimation to his family makes them victims as well. And if he is not guilty of this crime, then that is even more tragic than if he is. But yeah, it would appear to me that the Goncalves family, they have this sewn up. This is done. In their mind, Brian Kohberger is the person who's done this crime. This is just delaying inevitability now. They believe that Brian Kohberger is now just waiting for inevitability. It is purely inevitability. You're going to be shown in this trial how Brian Kohberger done it, likely why he did it, and justice will be served. Now, they did say, they were quite clever because they didn't specifically go on to say Brian Kohberger when they referenced the things that they were saying, when they were spoken about what does justice look like? And, they turned around and said, or Christy had turned around and said that she feels sometimes that there is no justice. Justice for her would potentially, and I'm paraphrasing, would look like the person it's suffering right now, that they would be suffering. And I think that has potentially been tweaked because we had previously heard Christy Goncalves say that she didn't want Brian Kohberger to be breathing anymore. And certain people felt a certain way about that. I did specifically feel that was the wrong thing to say. Everybody in the US has or should have the right to a fair and unbiased system when they are accused of doing a crime. They should have the presumption of innocence until it's proved beyond a reasonable doubt otherwise. Because why that is set in place is because being wrongfully accused destroys lives. Even if Brian Kohberger is now... if they're unable to prove guilt, I use this term because there's a difference between proving innocence and not being able to prove someone is guilty. And Brian Kohberger's life is over. Unless they can, beyond a reasonable doubt, prove that he is innocent, then his life is destroyed regardless. And the court system isn't about that. The burden of proof lays with the prosecution. So they have to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. And if they are unable to do that, then Brian Kohberger could technically walk with the vast majority of the public feeling that he is a guilty man who escaped justice. And that places him and his family in danger, in my personal opinion. Especially when you've got the likes of the Goncalves family who are so seemingly sewn up in the idea that Brian Kohberger is indeed the perpetrator and this is inevitability. How will they feel if the system is unable to prove his guilt? Will they be able to accept that Brian Kohberger potentially isn't the person who did it? And how will that play out as time progresses? It's an interesting one to consider. But until the trial happens and we go through it, this is just a potential bridge that we may have to cross. All I know, and speaking from my own personal opinion, is that I haven't seen enough to convict Brian Kohberger as of yet. Could he be innocent? I believe he could be innocent. Could he be guilty? Yes, he could indeed be guilty. But we need to see more. And I find it very unsettling that there are people who are indeed the mouthpiece of this tragedy that are seemingly so convinced that this is the person who did it, and they're willing to go out and consistently show how certain they are of this guy being the person who did this crime. That is damaging, and it goes towards the reason why this should indeed be moved out of Latah County, something else that the Goncalves family are not happy about. But let me know what you think. Where are we with it? The Goncalves family have this done and dusted. They've got their man, and they're just waiting for the hammer to come down and seal his fate. Are you the same? Or are you a bit more human? Perhaps got a bit more of an open mind? Let me know down below, and I'll catch you all in video 3 later today.